certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's June 16, 2021 revised order extending remote participation by all members. Any meeting of the public body, this meeting, the Great Barrington Select Board will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and our parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. And that's listed at the top of the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Pursuant to Mass General Law 7C 30A 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body, or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. So this meeting is being recorded by CTSB, by the town, by the Berkshire Edge, and other members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So let's get started first of all with select board's announcements and statements. Eric?
None at this time, thank you.
Ed?
Nothing.
Lee?
Nothing.
And I have nothing right now. So first we have, and I'm going to promote, I believe this is Dave Isby. We have David Isby, WSBS Radio, Sounds of Summer for 8-1 weekday entertainment licenses, July 6th, July 13th, July 20th, July 27th, August 3rd, August 10th, August 17th, and August 24th at 800 Main Street, Great Barrington, the VFW.
Steve?
David?
Steve, before he goes, I'm going to recuse myself. I don't have a financial caution.
They're all broken up, Ed. Can you try that again?
Yes, I'm going to recuse myself. I don't have a financial conflict of interest. Just out of abundance of caution because I have a show on the station.
Okay, thank you. Dave, do you want to just give a real brief?
Can you hear me okay? So I'm having a tough time hearing you guys. So I'm sorry, I'm providing music actually for an event with the Berkshire Hills Country Club tonight, which just started. So I hope you can hear me okay. So it's our 9th annual Sounds of Summer. Would have been our 10th year anniversary, but COVID stopped that, obviously. Free community concert series every Tuesday in July and August, starting a week from tomorrow. In the past, we've had a few hundred folks to over 1,000, depending on who's performing at the BFW. And we've got 7 of our 8 bands already lined up, just waiting for August 24th with a schedule on one of the bands. But we're almost there. We put it all together fairly quickly. And we're actually excited to have it back, and I hope the select board approves it.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to grant 8 one-day weekday entertainment licenses to David Isby and WSBS Radio for the dates of July 6th, July 15th, July 20th, July 27th, August 3rd, August 10th, August 17th, and August 25th.
Okay, so Eric, I had to mute you. There's a lot of background noise from you. Go ahead, you can unmute yourself, Eric, so we have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I need to do something first. There's a call-in user here, and I have a feeling that's Garfield. It doesn't have a name on it, and I'm going to take the chance, which I may regret later. If it's Garfield, I won't regret it, but if Garfield, is that you on the line?
It's Steve.
Okay, Okay,
You
good.
asked me for some reason. I can't pull up the Zoom on my computer today for some reason.
Okay, no problems. We got you there. Okay, good.
I'm not-
Good, that's perfect, Garfield. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, this is Garfield. If you didn't hear, this is on the WSBS Sounds of Summer.
I did hear that, yeah.
Okay, so you go first, Garfield. A vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Eric,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
aye, it's unanimous. Dave, you're all set to go on this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Take care. Okay, so let me just give you an overview of what's the crux of the meeting is about tonight. 2 or 3 times a year, we do a goal setting meeting. And we're not here to have a long discussion about each topic. What we're here to do is to give instructions to town staff and advice on how priorities on each of these topics. Now, tonight, there's 2 new board members, so that will necessitate maybe a little longer discussion. But on the sheet, as you see, and hopefully everyone has color, but on the top in red are the ones that are highest priority, then moderate priority are yellow, and then at the bottom in the green are completed projects. And what we're here to do tonight is to either reaffirm the high priority and moderate priority or to move things around. Well, we're not here to have, and I'm not trying to shorten the meeting, although it's summertime and 90 degrees. I'm not here to shorten the meeting. What I want to make sure is that we just give good direction to town staff. And Chris, what I'm going to ask you to do, some of these are fairly simple and probably in a couple sentences you can explain what they are. Others may take longer, but with 2 new board members, I think it's really important that we'll just start under A and high priority and we'll work our way through all of these and we'll discuss. For the new board members especially, a lot of times it's a nod of the head. Chris will explain something, we'll say, yeah, that's high priority, let's move on. We don't have to vote on every one, but we'll vote on the ones we need to. And so let's just start with the affordable housing market rate working class.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Chris speaking. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So, this is a high priority item for us. And, staff actually dedicates quite a bit of time to this, to supporting both the trust fund as well as planning board and select board efforts relative to housing production, zoning relative to housing, supporting that housing task force, which is a subcommittee of both the select board and the planning board. So we do dedicate a lot of time there. We completed a housing needs study last fall with CPA funding. CPA has again funded, town meeting has again funded with CPA funds, rental assistance. We have a focus, both the Housing Trust and the Planning Department, we have a focus on the design and eventual development of the up to 20 affordable homes up on North Plain Road. And the Grove Street, 40 Grove Street dwelling. So there's quite a lot going on. And I guess, I could answer more questions, or if you want to bump this down a priority list or add anything to it, we should discuss. But otherwise, we'll just continue keeping this up on top of the list for my department.
Well, one of the things I should explain is that we put a 1, 2, or 3 under each of the goals or long range, just to even give it more clarity on how important we think something is. My only point on the affordable housing is I think it, just for clarity, and I'm not sure it really matters because of how much work's going into, I think it should just be a 1. I think that's something this town needs. And so I would, if no one disagrees, we'll just change that to a 1. Any questions on that? Okay, moving ahead. Chris, go right ahead with the ambulance service study.
Actually, I think Charlie's in the audience and he could give a quick
I see, okay,
update.
great.
Yep.
There he is.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. A couple things to update you on. One, I believe Mark told you that the fire department did obtain its ambulance license. We are not running a transport service right now. We do not plan to do that at this point. But it does provide us both the ability to provide a higher level, of medical care when we're first on scene, which we are 75% of the time in this town. And it also enables us to have a MOU with Southern Berkshire Ambulance so that our EMTs can help staff their ambulances when needed. That, for example, was used over the weekend and worked very well. Also, obviously, as you know, the select board voted to appoint me to have me appointed to Southern Berkshire's board, which that's still a work in progress. I was invited to attend their last meeting, although I have not officially been appointed to the board. And there seems to be a little discussion among the legality with their current bylaws as to what position I would be appointed to. So that is still a work in progress. Going back to when this all started, prior to COVID, the Southern Berkshire Regional Emergency Planning Committee, of which I am the chair, was working with a consultant to start discussions regionally within all the services in Southern Berkshire County as to, shared challenges and hopefully shared solutions. Because this is something not just faced by Great Barrington or Southern Berkshire Ambulance. It's really certainly South County and really county-wide. COVID kind of put a damper on that. And now with COVID winding down, at least hopefully, we're planning to start working with that consultant again. Hopefully, again, identify some low-hanging fruit, get that fixed and start a better collaborative working relationship with everybody to move towards the future. What exactly that is, I'm not sure. I don't think anybody's sure, but I think it very likely will be more regional and more with more direct municipal involvement. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the board if you have any.
Any questions, anyone? Lee, go ahead.
Thank you, Chief Berger. What's a MOU and what happened this weekend that you had to use it?
It's a memorandum of understanding. Legally in Massachusetts, you have to work for an ambulance service in order to transport with them. So any EMT can't hop on any ambulance and legally transport. But if you're employed by one ambulance service, which we are now legally one, you can have a memorandum of understanding with another ambulance service so that you can legally staff their ambulances when needed. So Southern Berkshire only had 3 EMTs on over the weekend, or at least most of Saturday, which meant that they had 1.5 ambulances staffed. And half an ambulance is really no ambulance. So by us being able to provide our on-duty EMT to cross-staff that ambulance, it enabled several transports to take place out of that.
And do we bill them for that, or how does that work? Or is that just part of the agreement?
At this point, no, we are not billing. It is a net. Yes, there's no billing that's being done there right now.
Okay, so the question is, do we want to keep this as a high priority? I would say yes. It is a long range thing. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think we want to keep working on this and working actively. So I don't hear anyone objecting. So let's move on to Cook's Garage.
Cook's Garage is a high priority redevelopment project for us. The town owns the garage. We've conducted a few assessments of the possible contamination there, and we have those reports in hand thanks to our EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant. The big kind of hiccup right now is trying to figure out a little bit more information relative to the artesian well on site, which is shared 50% with the abutting property owner. So that it will impact the disposition, how that water is used and or sold or whatever. So we are trying to find out a little bit more about that. In the meantime, my brownfields team and I are discussing a possible community meeting to review all of our brownfield sites. So Cook's Garage, Reed Cleaners, as well as the Carpenter's Variety site right by BCC downtown. We'd like to have a community meeting to discuss these sites sometime this summer. So that would be our next step is a community meeting to get ideas or the town's thoughts about reuse and disposition of these sites.
Yes, Lee.
Chris, is this the new information that it's shared, the well, the artesian well? Because I did not know that.
It's not new information.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's important that we keep working on this. My only question, Chris, I see we have Reed's Cleaners on here. We have Cook's Garage. We don't have the Old Deli, which I like to affectionately call it. Do we want to just put all three of those together? Because I assume you put a lot of time into all three of those.
I do. It's fine if you list them separately. Just if you want to track them in your mind, they're grouped in my mind for economic development purposes and brownfield redevelopment purposes. So that's how I think about them. Currently, they're funded through the same grant. So, but it's fine. They may take different tracks. So if you want to keep them listed separately, that's fine.
That's fine. Any other questions? The COVID-19 state of emergency, which we are no longer in a state of emergency for the town of Great Barrington. It's an interesting question. I don't think we're going to drop our guard if we take this off of here, but I don't think staff is putting as much time into COVID-19. And I would say this is one that we can remove for now, hopefully for a long time from the list. To just open up some space. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, we're certainly spending less time there. Staff had been meeting almost weekly with our partners in healthcare and emergency responses. So that's definitely stopped. And health department continues to be plugged in with regional efforts and with the state. So our communication lines are open, but at the moment there's not a lot of specific things that we need to work on. We are now trying to address some of the impacts of COVID on our businesses. So we have this downtown recovery project that we're working on. But that's kind of the impacts of COVID. But the state of emergency issues, I think, are hopefully behind us.
Does anyone object to removing that? So I'm not seeing anybody. So Chris, we'll just remove that. It doesn't mean we're not going to have a priority if there's a flare-up of COVID, and which is a possibility. We're not going to do less, but I don't think it's necessary to be on the list. Housatonic Community Center.
We've continued to make upgrades there, as you see in the sheet here. And I'm not sure if that's a place where you folks have discussed with the town manager about having future meetings, but I think that's the goal, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So we're on the track, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a high priority to finish that, so I would leave that on the list. Hopefully by our next meeting, our next goal-setting meeting, we can take that off the list because we'll be finished, but at this point we're not. And maybe we won't be completely finished, or maybe other grants that we'll look at to continue working on the building. But I think that's an important building in Housatonic that we should continue to work on. Any questions or comments? Housatonic Fiber.
This is still a high priority project unless you all have input otherwise. It's slow going, however. We did authorize a study of the poles between Great Barrington and Housatonic up Park Street, Route 183. There's a lot of polls. We don't have all of the data back. Basically, what we're trying to find out is, depending on who owns the poles, what sorts of infrastructure upgrades would have to happen and what the cost of those would be in order to hang additional wires on poles. Those wires being fiber optic cable. So we don't have the results of that yet. We're working on it, and I assume you'd like to continue that focus.
Any idea when we'll have that? I know it's up to National Grid and Verizon.
Yeah, we still don't. There's still a lot of polls to come in. I can't tell you what their timeline is, but we'll continue to push them with as much leverage as we might have.
Eric?
Yes, thank you. I do think the fiber optics in Housatonic is a priority, especially with the lack of cellular. But I was curious about the build out of fiber in Great Barrington as well. I know it's going down the main street, but is there any work being done to see as far as the full build out of fiber optics throughout all of Great Barrington?
You want me to do that, Chris, or do you?
Yeah, maybe you understand the question a little bit better.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's that's a project that's being done by Fiber Connect at no cost to the town. So they're starting with the downtown. They've got pretty good coverage, not complete, and they will expand from there. So I guess the quick answer to your question is no, they haven't expanded beyond the downtown yet. So far, that the only money that the town has spent in any of this is the pole study going up to Housatonic. And that's so that Fiber Connect knows what they're getting into to see if they want to get into it. Does that answer it?
Yeah, I guess I was just seeing if there was a study that was needed for Great Barrington as well to build out or not, and if there was anything holding it up, just to make
I
sure.
think that's less intimidating. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, that's less intimidating for Fiber Connect than go house by house and get customers with each connection.
The difference between Great Barrington and like Housatonic Village is when the state put in the middle mile sort of trunk network of fiber, it didn't go up to Housatonic. Great, lots of Great Barrington and major roads were included, but for whatever reason, it didn't go there. So what this item is for us to help facilitate building of a trunk line up to the village so that then private operators can build out from there depending on demand.
I
So
don't think
Great Barrington was more advanced. Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to argue that that's a high priority. So, HR director will take off the list. That's a shared position that Mark announced. I think at our last meeting is we've completed. Chris, infrastructure. Sean actually gave us a fairly substantial update on some things last meeting. I don't see Sean here tonight, so I don't want to put you totally in the spot, but I know you can talk about the grants and financing of some projects. And no one's going to, I'm going to take a leap here and say no one's going to cross infrastructure off our high priority list. So I'm not so worried about that. But if you want to just take a chance to update us on some of the grants that you're working on or that we've received, or not, if you're not prepared to do that.
No, I think the report that you got from Sean the other night was a really good overview of the status of the major projects that we're looking at. And then as we discussed during the development of the budget and the capital budget, we focus our engineering and design funds on trying to prepare for grants in the coming years for larger projects. So it might be a state or federal grant for, North Plain Road or Route 183. So, just so you know, we have those projects that are happening, that are funded, and that Sean is moving forward, and we continue in the background to try to lay the groundwork as much as we can for future projects. I should add here one thing that's sort of not seen in the parentheses are things like stormwater, sewer. So that all comes along with infrastructure, and that's that line in itself could fill 3 spreadsheet pages. So, but yeah, we can keep that on the list, and if you have particular questions, we can continue to give you updates at meetings.
I think we will probably continue to have Sean and then have you do updates maybe every 6 weeks or so on our projects and also on the funding. I think there's some confusion by some members of the public that we've just abandoned all the bridges when in fact we're very deep into funding possibilities on all of them. And that's just what we're doing instead of adding to our tax liabilities of $14 or $20 million. We're actually working to get grants on all of these or have grants, but they're in future years. And I think that's important for us just to keep reminding people.
Stephen?
Yes.
I have a question or a thought. I've heard from some folks some concern about the berm down there in Bentley Avenue. Can we add that somewhere along the line to make sure that it's straightened out?
Put it on a select board.
People have a feeling that ground is still contaminated.
It is. And we've talked about that. So we'll put that on, we'll go over that on a town manager's report not the next meeting, the meeting after that. Because we've had, and you weren't part of the board then, Garfield, we've had very substantial discussions about it. So what we can have, maybe we can ask CDC to come in and give us a progress report on the whole project.
That would be great.
So if that would be perfect. Next one, we could talk for an hour, but let's just figure out what we're doing with parking concerns. I'm not ready to say, okay, the town meeting voted down the purchase of the parking lot, so let's take this off the list. But I'm also not sure at this point what our priority is on parking.
Yeah, happy to. We would look for some direction on that, whether we change gears, whether we bump this down to a lower level. Would love your input on that.
Well, I know that Pedro from the planning board had requested for us to look back and review some of the proposal that he brought to the select board in previous months regarding wayfinding and finding other creative solutions. So I would suggest that we look back at what has been presented and see if that's something we want to tackle and bring back into our discussions.
I would say this is definitely still a high priority, and we should probably put it on a very soon agenda to start deciding which way we're going to go.
Yeah.
With some input from staff, that would be you, Chris, I think. Because you've been involved in other projects where we've done spot savers and we weren't always successful, obviously. So we'll keep that there.
What may I make a statement? As you know, kind of how I feel, and I personally don't want to see it as a high priority. Again, as I stated before, I think we've talked about this ad nauseum. We ourselves cut out 17 parking spots when we did our beautification, if you will. Again, as I stated, and someone actually agreed with me, they've not had a hard time trying to find a place to park in town, but maybe I don't go at the right time. But I'm just throwing my 2 cents in, and that's been a topic forever.
Yeah,
If
it will
it's been
continue.
forever, then why do we need it on a high priority if we haven't done anything about it forever?
I will just correct you on one thing, Garfield, at least in my mind. We've done a lot about it. We haven't been successful.
Right. Okay. I'll buy it. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Anyone else feel that way, or should we keep it on the high priority?
I think we
So I don't hear-
revisit, seeing the vote, I think we should at least discuss it and see what we want to do. So
We'll put it on the
I'm
future.
discussing it. I just don't think it's high priority.
Okay. Personnel policy manual is complete, which is really good news. That's been hanging out there through a few town managers, and that's complete. Yeah, we'll remove that. Reed's Cleaners property, Chris, that's
Yeah.
that's a big one.
That's a big one. EPA finished their soil removal action earlier this month. So they excavated a lot of the contaminated soil that was behind the existing Reed Cleaners building, where the old dry cleaning tanks were stored in the ground. So EPA removed that soil. It was great. They had an on-site lab as they went. So as they dug the pit, they kept sampling to see how much further they needed to excavate. We'll have their report soon. We're not sure exactly what our next step is and how we will use our.
Oh, Chris is frozen, I believe. This will make the meeting longer. Let's give it a second here.
So Eric, that's your answer to the question about high speed in Great Barrington. It hasn't made it a block up the hill to Chris.
That's right.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was just making sure that it was in the process, that's all.
All right, he'll come back. Can I weigh in here while we're waiting?
What's that?
Can I weigh in? Unless he's about to say we're waiting. Oh, let him say it first.
Go ahead, Chris. We'll try again.
We lost most of that.
Yeah, I lost connection totally. So EPA did a removal action. We're waiting for their report to determine what our next steps for the site should be. And we can combine this with our July or August community meeting to talk about Cook's, Reed's, and the other site. But I assume remediation and redevelopment here is still a high priority. The question for the town, for us, will be, what do we do with the site?
So that'll be something on a future select board agenda.
I'm just wondering if we could start to answer that question even before the remediation is finished, so we're ready to go.
Yeah, we'll add that to sometime this summer. It'll get on the select board agenda. And Chris is taking those notes, I hope. Systemic racism proclamation.
I don't have an update for you there.
I think I want to keep this on as a high priority. I know we're trying to form the committee, which we haven't been successful with. So anyone not want to keep this as a high priority? That kind of seems. Okay, so we'll move ahead to trip hazards on Main Street.
This is something that DPW has plans to address and will do so as funds are available.
So my question is, I think it's a high priority, but if it's a high priority, why haven't we funded it and done something with it? It seems kind of, the state left us with problems on Main Street. We're here to pick up the ball. We made it a high priority, but we haven't put any funds into it. So I want to keep it a high priority, but I also don't just want it in red. I want us to do something about it. Was Sean not planning to be here, Chris?
I'm sorry, I'm just back myself, so I don't know.
I wasn't told either. So I want to leave this on there until we can talk to Sean, because either it's a high priority and we should have put it in the town meeting for funding, or we don't make it a high priority. But it seems like just putting it there is not doing enough for me. So let's move on. There's no sense of talking about if Sean isn't here. So we'll keep it there until we hear otherwise. Chris, the water system study, I don't know if you have to go much into that because we've talked about it a lot.
You've heard about that, yeah. So I don't have any other updates other than what Mark has shared with you in his regular town manager updates.
In the next two select board meetings, we will have the reports presented to us starting as early as 2 weeks from tonight will be the first one. So we are moving ahead on that, not at a speed everyone is happy with, but these things take time, and I understand the frustration. Okay, so now we've got through the high priority projects. Now we can add things to that, but let's go through the moderate priority projects. It's kind of like the lightning round. We'll go through these and see if we want to keep them here, make them high priority, or take them off altogether. And then we can discuss this list as a whole. If anyone sees things that just aren't on here at all that you would like to either put on high priority or moderate priority. So 5G technology. Anyone? I'm not aware that we've really worked on this, and I'm not sure what we can do about 5G technology anyways. To be quite honest, that's going to be up to the carriers to decide to do that or not. Chris, do you know any more about it than I do?
This may have made your list originally to prompt the town to look into design considerations for 5G technology. The thought is that since 5G requires more poles, which have less distance between each pole or between each cell than existing cell service, that means a lot of poles or a lot of antennas. And so some municipalities across the country are instituting design standards so you don't have poles and ugly apparatus sprouting up within your right-of-ways. So that
I don't know enough about this to take it off, and I don't know enough about this to move it to high priority. So
Could we ask the planning board for advice on that? If this is something we should deal with quickly?
would that make sense, Chris? It does to me.
sure. Do you want to give them a priority level?
I just want to ask them if that's something that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I'll bring it up to them and see if that's something they want to pursue. It might be a zoning issue. It might be a town bylaw issue. We can look into that. But in the meantime, maybe we should just keep it here and provide you with an update next time.
That'd be good. Bid district, business improvement district. The short story is we've tried this twice under different town managers and have not been successful. I'm not aware that we're in any spot right now to be working on this. Chris, we're not working on this for the third time, are we?
We're not. Currently, the downtown Great Barrington Cultural District does some of maybe, I guess you could say, the promotion of downtown as a place for people to shop and eat and be entertained. So that maybe is the promotion arm of what a business improvement district would be. But in the past, the bid has been conceptualized as something that could fund parking improvements, could fund other public amenities and other things. So
I would like to at least have a discussion on trying this again. It's just, the last year that what the town did with Railroad Street, that was the town stepping up with town money to keep our businesses alive, which is good, so they could pay rent, which is good to improve the values of the buildings. And it's really the building owners that are supposed to be paying for a bid to do this. I would really love to try this again. I understand it takes a lot of work and we have limited staff time. So I guess I would get a recommendation from staff on how to move forward with this, or if and how.
Merely exploring a bid is a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
This can't be a high priority item from my perspective, but you can leave it in, and it's something that we can explore.
Can we at least agree to put this, instead of a 2, to put it as long range? Because I look at this as how many times you bang your head against the wall before you stop banging your head against the wall. And staff time is valuable. So let's at least put it as long range.
Matt, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you you explain this a little more? Because it sounds before me, and I'm kind of curious as to why maybe it's not something that should be a little higher priority. And my question being, and it got me almost a little bit of trouble with the fairground, but have we had any discussions in the town as of late of maybe where or how we can bring more business here, or where we would even put it, and what kind of business we would even want to bring here? Have we studied that? Have we looked
That's not, so we can talk about that, Garfield. That's not what a bid is, but
Okay.
let Chris explain what a bid is. And first, because it is a little complicated.
A business and permit district is a specific geographic area. It could be downtown, it could be South Main, it could be Housatonic, it could be Stockbridge Road. It's a specific area, and the property owners within that area pay extra. They're billed extra in their property tax bills quarterly as sort of a fee for service to be members of a business improvement district. They set up their own board of directors. It's kind of a quasi public-private organization. It has its own board of directors. The financing is controlled and appropriated by that board of directors. All the town does is collect the funds and pass it through to them. So they set their priorities as to what they want to do. For example, maybe they'd want to do a business recruitment study, Garfield, something like that. Maybe they'd want to hire more workers in the downtown.
How do we get that
do
to
more
happen?
planters.
How do we get them to do a business study? Is it not feel we don't need that? Isn't that why we want to push vocational, and don't we need a new business life in town? I'm asking. I would think we did. Since I've been around, I've not heard really any topics or speaking of long-range business proposals for the town of Great Barrington. And I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now, right? At least 3 with the planning board, now here, and a couple other little committees, and no one's really talking.
Let me just correct you.
Well, I haven't heard.
Let's just
put it that way.
correct that, because we started a committee, the Economic Development Committee, which did talk a lot, not about bid, but talked about development. And it didn't go as far as we would have liked, and it's being worked on privately, not by the town. But there was an Economic Development Committee, and we problem with the bid is that in order to form a bid, you have to get the business owners, no, the landlords is more correct, to form a bid. And as well as Chris and other people have tried to explain why it's to their advantage to form a bid, there is some skittishness that the town, and I'm going to say this, and I don't want to put words into people's mouths, but I'm going to try to say it, and I'm not saying it anything badly, that the town is just trying to take some money away that the town would normally pay and put it back in the business owners having to pay it. And that's a big concern. So really, a business improvement district in some areas, I've seen, where was I think it was Seattle. You will see people, and this wasn't proposed here, so don't anybody take this wrong way. On a weekend, wearing shirts that say business improvement district, and they're sweeping the street, they're taking the garbage, they're making sure it looks nice for the customer. They may be paying for extra police, but there are other things that we propose that they could be doing, marketing, for instance, that we don't do. And if we can't convince the landlords, not the business owners, but the landlords to become part of this, then there is no such thing. We can't form a bid.
The advantage of a bid, sorry, Steve, is that the town has to go to town meeting for funding and essentially goal setting via funding. So funding or whatever for a specific area is subject to the will of the voters. A bid can raise those funds and do it themselves, and but it's up to them. So if a group of property owners in a specific area in town want to do more, want to do more than what the town currently does. And the town cannot do that for whatever reason. Either we can't get the funding, or we don't have the authority, or whatever it is. The businesses can group together and do that. The owners can group together and do that. We have helped at least twice, and it may be 3 times, to facilitate discussions with property owners to explore the things that they would like to do above and beyond what the town does, and to come up with solutions and a dedicated funding stream for them to do so. But at the end of the day, some folks want to pay a little bit more for those extra services. Some folks don't. And that's been the conversation. That's where we stop every time.
So Garth, really what's happening is we're using a lot of staff time, and we're getting the same results at the end every time. I haven't participated, Ed has participated, I know, but I've seen, the reports at select board meetings. We've had really good discussions with business owners, landlords, but in the end of the day, you can have all the discussions you want, but if you can't get a successful vote, then you probably wasted your time. They probably can be used in better places, staff time. I'm not saying we should take this off the list, but I surely would put this as long range. So that, if in fact there are different business owners or climate changes and some people really, and landlords, I shouldn't say business owners, want this, I think it's important. I think it's really important, but we've not been successful. And I don't want to, personally, I'm not speaking for the board, I don't want to give direction to staff to put a lot of time and effort into this when ultimately it's not our decision, it's the landlords.
Or either I am not understanding or on different elements here, and maybe I'm just talking about not a bid, but maybe just job creation, period. From
A bid is not job creation, it's a business.
I know, I'm speaking something, I'm saying, no, let's not talk about the bid, let's talk about creating jobs.
Yeah, and so when we get done, we'll add, that's what I said, when we get done, through this part of it, the moderate priority, which was supposed to be the lightning round, which hasn't been, but that's fine, is that we'll say, okay, what do you want to add to it? And job creation is surely something worthy to add to it. So yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just a bid has a job creation are 2 separate things.
Yes, I'm understanding that. Mm-hmm.
So can we make this long range, please, if we're going to leave this on here? Okay, the next one is committee charters and meetings of chairs. I see it says a special project matter and GB Labs are working on this and will report back at a later date. And that's Mark's updated notes. So I don't even see any reason to discuss this much other than to say that I think we're trying to get all of our committees to operate under the same set of rules. And this is especially important with hybrid meetings. And I think some committees don't have secretaries, others do. Are all treated the same way? Do they all have regular meeting dates, citizen speak time, et cetera? There's variance from committee to committee, and I think to the extent possible, the town should have kind of an overview of how committees are handled. And it sounds like it's being worked on. I didn't realize GB Labs was working on it, but those are Mark's notes. So I say give it one more meeting and let's get a report back on it. One more goal setting meeting. Chris, Conservation Fund for land purchases.
That's up to you. It was not something that was funded. I don't know if it's a priority for the Conservation Commission at this time. And of course, I don't know if it's a priority for you. We have not, we started updating our open space and recreation plan right before COVID. And that was one of the things that took a backseat when COVID hit. So I'd like to start that update of the open space and recreation plan again. That may recommend a conservation fund for land purchases. So maybe that's something that you change, that the moderate priority would be an open space and recreation plan update. This may be an outcome of that then.
So you're saying that let's leave this alone for one more goal setting meeting to see where we go?
Sure.
Or would you?
I mean, or we can change it. So, or we can change it to open space and recreation plan update.
I like that idea. Everyone all set with it?
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Okay, that's perfect. I just heard from Mark. He got held up. He's on vacation. He was going to join the meeting tonight. And I told him Chris was doing just
Thanks,
fine.
Steve.
It's anytime. He will owe you lunch, of course. So I'm always thinking of you. Just trying to get Sean on the line because it's not fair to the notes that weren't updated on this sheet were Sean's because we were expecting Sean on the line. So there may have been a communication problem. So I'm not going to put Chris on the spot and say, so how are courthouse improvements going? Because Chris doesn't know, neither do I. So we're going to skip the ones that are Sean's if he joins us. There may be something that kept him out, but let's just move ahead. Downtown, Pride, Energy, Marketing, Entertainment. Ooh,
Yeah, that's
sounds
a big one. I'm not sure what all of those things mean. The cultural district, as the notes say, the cultural district is working on a banner campaign with local artists from Monument Mountain, and which is pretty exciting. The artwork looks fantastic. We're not quite yet at production, but we hope to be soon. So that's just a quick update. Anything else?
yeah, I think it's important for us to keep working on. Economic development, small business assistance, that's a long range, moderate priority.
But that may be something where we add Garfield's suggestion of, additional broader discussion of job creation or business assistance. Sorry, Garfield.
All right.
Yeah, I would say that's a really good idea. Garfield, are you okay with adding it right there?
Okay.
Job creation? I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to skip elevator repairs. The last I saw, just to update anyone who's on the line, is that sometime in the winter, I think the elevator's going to get repaired. For those of you who haven't been through this, knock on wood, the elevator in town hall is working okay right now, but we've had at least one meeting that we had to cancel because the elevator broke right before the meeting. And if we're not handicap accessible, we can't have a meeting. We are now Zooming our meetings, which is really good. But when we go to a hybrid, we still have to be handicap accessible. So as long as we stay as a Zoom, if the elevator breaks, that's fine. But once we go to hybrid, we can't say, well, you can Zoom in, especially if it breaks a half hour before the meeting. So I will leave it at that until we can get more information. Yes.
A suggestion, which is we maybe coincide some of our away meetings with elevator repair. I assume it'll be shut down for some portion of the repair process. So we'll need a place to meet.
That's a good idea. And that's an excellent idea. Charging station, let's see if he updated that one. Yeah, that's actually being incorporated into a couple of our projects that are happening this summer. Chris, you want to just expand on that?
There are stations planned for the parking lot, the so-called Taconic parking lot back behind the Triplex Theater, down in the hole there, and for town hall.
Great. And I would assume what we'll do is once those are in, we can talk about taking this off the list, but let's keep it on there. Charlie, you're here, fire department study. I'm hoping Charlie's here.
Sorry about that. Yes, I am. I had my phone charging because it was dying. I will be back at your next meeting, I believe on the 12th, to give an update on a number of things. I don't think there's anything earth-shattering right now or any reason to change the priority. There are a lot of things being worked on, a lot of stuff that's being done, but I think it'd be better if I just gave that in a coherent presentation at your next meeting.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Next is, and if anybody has questions, please interrupt me. I don't want to monopolize this. The next is more of a Sean issue, the fire station easement. It's kind of complicated. So we will skip that one. Chris, a Grove Street property?
40 Grove Street, the town took for back taxes. Town meeting transferred it to the care of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, through an RFP, has selected Habitat for Humanity as the redeveloper of that. So working with the trust fund chair, I think we have a call this week with Habitat to do the paperwork, and Habitat will then work to find a qualified homeowner and do the repairs. And it will be a permanently affordable home.
So can we mark this as complete?
I
From
think
our hands at least.
I think so. From your perspective, it's off of your table. I would group it into that larger affordable housing work area that my department does anyway.
So if no one objects, I think we'll remove that. I think it's been successful. We'll take all the credit in the world we can, even though we didn't do all the work, but that's terrific. I'm going to skip hosting community discussion with Bridge because I think unless Chris knows a lot about this, I think this is Mark. And Housatonic School update. I think we can give an update on the Housatonic School, but there isn't much to update. We've been updating. But what I would really love to see us do is move this to a high priority. I'm getting too old to be talking about Housatonic School many more years. And we need to get this going. We're expecting a report from the Housatonic Improvement Committee at the end of October. And I would love to see, and I'm not saying staff isn't spending time on it, but I'd love to see us give staff direction that this is a high priority.
I agree.
Anyone disagree? Terrific. Not hearing that, Chris, we will move that to high priority. And it will be on at least one agenda in October. It may be sooner than that if it warrants it, but I think some of us the other night expressed our desire to have this move a little faster. So enough said. Inclusiveness and diversity in the town hall. I will just read what Mark has here. There's translation tablets at all town buildings. Diversity training was postponed during COVID. It will still happen. So I would say that we leave that on there because part of that is not done, but it's still a moderate priority. The next one is a licensing board. Chris, do you want me to talk about that or do you want to talk about it?
Go ahead, Steve. I'm not familiar with it.
So as long as I've been on the select board, there's been discussion, and I'm all for taking this off, by the way, but there's been a discussion about having either a subcommittee of the select board, which would still be a public meeting, or some other group approve one-day licenses, vending machines, entertainment, that kind of routine stuff that we do that takes up a little bit of our time. Annual renewals, auto sales. I just don't see this as being that important. I think it takes us, in the meeting in December, it takes us maybe a half hour. we did have to sign the licenses up until this year, so we've solved part of the problem is the licenses are automatically signed for us. So if no one objects, and I know there'll be two former select board members who probably will text me and say, why'd you take that off? But I think we got a lot more on our plate than to worry about whether, you know, the auto dealer's licenses took 5 minutes of our time or not.
This was Sean's project.
It was Sean's at the beginning, but we don't have to come in the week before Christmas or Hanukkah and sign for 45 minutes, so it's less of a problem. So does anyone have a problem with just removing this?
No.
The next one is the marijuana license limits and marijuana revenue. So let me just say a couple things. The revenue portion of this in our August meeting, we will have a report on last year's revenues. Included that will be marijuana. We've asked Sue to put together, and she's closing the year out in July, so we're not going to ask her to do that in July, but hopefully in August, we'll talk about hotel motel tax, restaurant, and marijuana. As far as the licensing limits, we've had the discussion, and with joint planning board meetings, we've had the discussions about a limit to the number of licenses. We did bring that to the town meeting, somebody correct me, 2 years ago?
Last year.
Was it last year?
September.
September, and it was voted down. We can leave it on here and continue to work on it, or we can take it off.
Yeah, my feeling is town meeting spoke twice on that issue. So we ought to take it off.
Anyone else feel otherwise?
I mean, if it ends up on the citizens petition again, obviously, I think town meeting will address it, but I'm not sure what we can do with the word anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Garfield?
I want to know what would it entail taking it off? What? Just curious.
It just means that we're not directing the staff to work on it. I mean, if we leave it on there, it implies that we expect the staff to do something at a town meeting to try to get limits again. And, the town meeting spoke, as Ed said twice. And if someone wants to, try to bring this up again as a citizen's petition, as Lee just said, that's fine. They have every right to do that. But as far as us spending staff time on it when the town meeting has spoken, it seems not to be the best use of staff time.
Thank you.
So I'm not hearing anybody say anything, so let's remove this. Marketing to young families. That project is still in the works. I think some of these, and it sounds like have been held up by COVID. Just priority, staff priority had to change. So hopefully this will continue to work. Chris, you want to talk about the master plan review with the planning board?
That's something that the master plan recommends, at least an annual review between the two boards. A review of the master plan, should it be updated? Should we write a new one? So it's something that the two boards have gotten together, I think in the fall, in a joint session to review the master plan and updates on the goals and strategies of the master plan. So that might be something that the two boards continue meeting again.
Yeah, I'm not sure we have a joint meeting set up, but we probably in the fall we should. We may have one set up. I can't remember, but so that's something I'll work with Brandy to get a joint meeting with the planning board set up and work on an agenda. I'm just making myself a note. Mission statement for the select board in town. I'm not sure we've done anything with that, but it seems important.
I don't know what the board's intent was there, but there's nothing assigned. So I'm not sure what the original intent was there.
Let's talk to Mark about that one, because I think, if my memory is correct, it may be part of a marketing campaign. Open meeting, public records training for boards. Again, that, to sound like a broken record, we were hoping once a year, every other year, to have training done in Great Barrington. I think it's really important that we do that. And I know Mark has been working on setting a date up. He had a date and COVID hit. It's not easy to get the state to come out here because the most bang for their buck is in the bigger cities where they get more people. The last time we had a training here, we had a full house. The select board's meeting room was standing room only. So I think it's important we leave that on there, because the open meeting law needs to be followed, and we need our boards to understand it. So I would ask that we leave that on there. The next one, which has nothing by it.
Skipped neighborhood meetings, Steve.
Sorry, did I? Yes. Neighborhood meetings in Housatonic. I think we're back to neighborhood meetings. We're having one in Housatonic in August, the first week in August, which we'll publicize. And then maybe as a board, we can talk about what other neighborhoods, and it's more when we need to. We did have one with Grove Street, we had with Cottage. We've been in Housatonic before. I think those should still be a priority. I think it's important for us to get out of the select board's meeting room, or to get out of the Zoom meetings and be in people's neighborhoods. So if everyone no one objects, let's keep that right there. The next one is a policy for removing committee members, and I think that should just be folded into committee charters and meeting of chairs. But the problem is that there's nothing in the town bylaws or nothing in the charter to remove committee members. So a board may say, well, someone misses 3 meetings in a row, we're going to ask for them to be removed, depending if they're appointed by the select board or by the town manager. Another board may say, well, we're okay if they miss 3 in a row, but if they miss 6, the town doesn't have any set rules on that. And it does become a problem with quorums. All of us have been on boards, and if you have someone continually missing, and then what's the way to remove them? If it's appointed by the town manager, the board can't just remove someone. It would be a request of the town manager. And I think one board, I think Parks, what they do is if someone's missed 3 in a row, they call the person, the chair calls the person and said, do you still want to stay on? Can you try to make the meetings? But we don't have any real guidelines for all the committees and boards to follow. So I think that's important that we follow up on. But I think we can do that as committee chairs. I don't think we need a lot of staff time. Chris, Resta River.
As the board members probably know, the BPA issued a permit consistent with the settlement agreement that the 5 towns signed on to. So right now it's up to the BPA appeals board, and of course there's a lawsuit pending in another town, but this is still a priority item from my perspective, with a lot of impact on the town. So I think you should keep it on the list.
It's good enough for me. Select board policies. I think that Eric and Garfield, you got a copy of our policies when you joined the board. And I think it is time that the board update they may not, let me rephrase that. I think it's time that we look at the policy to see if they need updating. I don't think policies do us much good if we never look at them. So we will put that on as an agenda item. We will see how we want to do this. We need to talk about how we want to do it. We could form a subcommittee, which comes under the open meeting law, and would have to post a meeting. So we'll see how we want to look at the policies. There may be nothing to change in them, there, or there may be things that we do want to change. But it's simply our select board policies, and it's our choice of what we put in them until the board changes and the next board may want to make changes also. I think it's important that we do this. I don't think it has to be done this week. I think it should stay on there, but we'll see how our time goes. The sewer rate study, Chris, have we not completed that?
We did,
I believe you had a full presentation.
and made a decision, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we give one or two things. That's in progress as far as I know, our decision. So I'm not sure that I think we can remove it. And if Garfield and Eric want more updates on it, they can either talk to Mark or we can put it on an agenda and talk about it again. But it's done with.
If it's completed, if it's completed, we'll move it down, and if not, we'll leave it on. How's that?
The next one is an interesting one, short-term rental regulations.
Yeah, I've already put this back to a higher priority. On the other hand, it's going to take a tremendous amount of work. Every other town that's wrestled with this has spent years. So I guess I would defer to Mark and Chris about whether we got the capacity right now, but I think it's probably more important than what we've ranked it.
Yeah, I think it should be a high priority. I mean, I know the housing subcommittee is working on that, which I'm a member of, but I think it should be a high priority.
And I agree. The only advantage I have, and Chris, I'm not trying to make it sound like you don't have any work, is that there are a few towns around us who've passed some sort of legislation that we can at least look at instead of maybe not reinvent the wheel totally. But I'm not going to get I'm not going to get on the soapbox now and say why it's important, because I said at the beginning that's not what this meeting's for. But I think it's important that we look at this for a whole bunch of reasons. So,
And the good thing is the select board, planning board, housing subcommittee will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So, we'll be doing a lot of work too. Not just going to be on this topic.
perfect. Is anyone just with moving this up to high priority? Not seeing anyone, so that's perfect. Sign zoning and banners.
I don't know what that is, except I'll speculate that it's due to folks who have difficulty reading and interpreting sign code, which sometimes includes myself. This rewriting the sign code, addressing banners, is a major lift and will require some, in my opinion, additional legal funds for First Amendment reviews and things like this. It's not a small job.
We leave that on there and put under long range, because I don't think we should forget about it, but I also don't think it's a huge priority right now. And it sounds to me that that's not something we have the capacity to do, in the next 6 months. So the next one is tax classification, and Eric asked me what that was, and I said Mark would explain it tonight because I couldn't remember, and it has Kate's name on it. Anyone want to guess what that was? Okay, so Eric, it's unanimous. None of us remember what that was. Other than texting Kate, let's just leave it there until we can remember what that was. I'm not even sure why it has her name on it. So, tree committee. We have a tree committee. I think that can be removed. I think the tree committee is an effective committee. We formed it and it's doing its work.
They're branching out.
Very good, Garfield. You get an A for the evening. The next one, actually, Bill Cook said to me, this shouldn't be that much more work, but it's the website and URL for email addresses. And it's under long range, but maybe we can just put a note on that, Chris, to ask Mark to find out if if we're any closer to that. Because according to Bill, we're really close. It shouldn't take much work. According to this, it's long range and we haven't even worked on it. So and I am not an expert on what this is.
Okay,
I think it's .gov instead of .org.
That's all I know, yes. Sounds easy to me, it's 3 letters, but what do I know? The next one is zoning enforcement. And I think this has been an issue that we've talked about as a board, even recently. Previously, depending on the town manager, depending on the interpretation, we have not done active enforcement of zoning issues. If an aggrieved party puts a complaint in, then we will do some investigation. I believe now, recently, and we talked about this, I think, with Long Pond, and we've talked about it with other cases, that we are being more aggressive with this. And I think it's really good where it says proactive versus reactive. Now, previously, if no one had complained, I won't say we looked the other way, but we didn't put this as a high priority. Building inspector is busy, the assistant building inspector is busy. But I think there's some amount of frustration for the general public and for select board members. So I'd like to leave this on here. Not that we have anything to do with it, but I don't want it to be forgotten. Because I think there were some frustrations. And I would like to leave this on here at least until our next goal setting meeting to make sure that everyone realizes, I'm assuming, and I'd love to hear from board members, that we want to be more proactive and less reactive, which is the direction we're moving in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm seeing everyone's head nod. So there's nothing worse than working on a special permit for months than 3 years later, what's ever in it, the landowner is forgotten, and it's very frustrating. So that's
I'll just say that the building inspector is the zoning enforcement officer for the town. He's never been completely in a reactive mode. Sometimes we as staff are just unaware of things. Let's say that there's a condition that nothing can occur overnight. Well, we're not out there at midnight making sure things are or are not happening. So we do rely on folks to tell us what's going on, and then we can investigate. So I just want to put that out there. It's not that we're sitting on our hands.
Yeah, I want to be really clear. I am not saying that the building inspector's done anything wrong, previous town manager. It's just a philosophy. And it depends, and it's really the select board can help guide that philosophy. Because there is just so many hours in the day. And that's one of the reasons we have this goal setting meeting. There's just so many hours in the day. And, how do we want the building inspectors to spend their time? Driving around and looking for everything when there's $1 million projects going up that they need to put their time in. But there is I think, some sort of a middle road that all of us would like to see. We don't need to talk about completed projects. They're completed, and probably we've talked about them to death anyways. Is there anything that the board would like to see added to this list? Yes, Lee.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify the Housatonic, the water study. Right now it just says water study, and I just wanted to possibly clarify that it will be, talking about the water issue in totality, not just the study. So I know that that's part of the study. We need the study in order to make a decision what we're doing, but I just for clarification, maybe we add, that it's going to be looking at the whole water situation. So first, I think the reason
it doesn't, and I'm agreeing with you, but just for clarification, I think at the time, one of the things we wanted to look at was both water systems, the fire district and Housatonic, so that when we talk about the best way to handle Housatonic, we also know the capacity of the fire district and what their shortcomings and their positive feedback parts are. So I think that's why it was so generalized, but I agree with you.
So do we then add a separate one just for the Housatonic water issue, just so to make sure that that's a priority, rather than looping it in with just a water study.
I think they're related, and I think we put Housatonic water right on there. I think that's,
The second item I have is the Monument Mountain Regional High School entrance. I know that there's work going on, ongoing right now, and I just want to make sure, and I know I'm working on it, but that it's in the, it's in our, mind that is an issue. I mean, I hope it's not just a personal issue, that it's, the select board agrees that this should be at least on this goal setting sheet. So I make a request to add that.
we can add that on there. Ultimately, it's a school's responsibility, but I think the town can help.
For us to keep a pressure on it and take the lead, which we are at the moment, so.
I think that's great.
The other item I have is, and this is more of a question to the board, Main Street pedestrian safety versus slash traffic downtown. So, I just keep getting a lot of concerned residents talking about pedestrian safety on Main Street and just traffic. So I don't know if that's something we just want to keep on our radar and have town staff. And I believe that Chief Story is going to be coming to our next meeting to talk about what the police department is going to be doing to enforce or to help enforce the safety on Main Street. But just throwing it out to the board, if you think it's a good idea to put this on our goal setting, just to basically, acknowledge that there is a problem with pedestrian safety on Main Street and the traffic downtown is getting worse by the minute.
We're going to also go through the study that was done and presented to us a while ago, and we're at a meeting in July, I believe. We're going to make decisions on the enacting of some of those safety measures also. It's fine to put it on here. It's not a problem. I think we're well on our way to doing it, but I think it puts it in front of the public, so it's a good idea.
It's just one of the items that I keep hearing over and over again when I do something that. I also have a note about preparing for an aging population, and this kind of covers everything from housing supply to senior center expansion, and that might cover the kitchen, or just making note that, acknowledging that there is increasing aging demographic in Great Barrington, and just put it on a radar that we might need to look into senior center, whether they need extra space in the kitchen or more programming. And that also goes into the talk about non-residents using the senior center. And if we were to do anything with the senior centers, do we look at a way to seek revenue from those that aren't residents? So just throwing it out there.
I agree with you. I don't think this needs to go on the list. I think we need to have Polly at a meeting and start talking. As you know, I already talked to Mark about the kitchen. That's been a topic that's come up a few times. So you'll see that come up towards next year's budget, or if there's grant money available sooner.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we'll put on an agenda item.
Okay, yeah, I just feel like there is a pressure, and, with the aging population, I just don't want to lose sight that is an issue. This is more of a question for the board. If you want to add dog park anywhere, I know Ed was working on it for years and years, and it's something that's kind of been always in the thing, and it doesn't need to be necessarily on the goal setting, but just throwing it out there if anyone thinks that we should put that again on our radar, just to not lose sight of it.
The committees that have any access to land have all just said they're not interested. I'm not sure where we're going to get. I mean, we do have a piece of land that's possible, although nobody's talked to the neighbors yet, which is the next obstacle.
It's just one of these things that,
significant money.
Yeah. So we just kind of let it go, and then just.
Yeah, Parks isn't interested. Cemetery Commission's not interested. Concom isn't interested. All three of them have land, but none of them are interested. I'm not sure what the next step would be.
And then this is what the last thing, request, when Sue updates us on the cannabis money coming to the town, if she's going to be speaking about any money that might be coming through the American Rescue Plan.
No, yeah, that'll come to us because we have to approve how that money is spent. So yes, yeah, that'll come to us. Anyone else? Yes, Eric.
I got a few things. One, I guess I just want to circle back to the Housatonic Waterworks and just say like it should be a high priority for the delivery of consistently clean, clear, healthy drinking water for all customers of Housatonic Waterworks. Because one thing that's it does branch into other towns, so I think we got to think about that as well. So the other thing I have on my last list is the full reopening and staffing of the Ramsdale Library.
That's in progress.
Yeah, and I know it's got library there, but it's also gathering place and could, hot days like this, I was in a few different houses. A lot of people are suffering from the heat, could be a cooling center, stuff like that as well. So I guess I see it as more of a gathering place and library for Housatonic. So just want to make sure that doesn't fall off people's radars. That's what I got.
Anyone else? What about citizens' time?
So, Steve, before you go there, can I just,
Please.
do you want to talk to Mark more about these items? The Monument Mountain entrance, Main Street, pad safety, traffic congestion. Eric had the Housatonic Water and Ramsdale, but I'm not sure if there was sort of 5 nods of the head to add each one of those as priorities, or maybe you and Lee speak to Mark about that. I'm not sure how you want to go ahead.
That's fine. I think there was a majority, but this is a more of an informal meeting, a straw poll,
Yeah.
and voting on it. So yeah, I think most of those we will add, but we'll talk to Mark about it. Not this week, but next week.
Yeah, some might be agenda items, some might be on this list. So I wasn't sure how you want to go. Go ahead.
And just to support what Eric, because I actually had the Ramsdale Library in my list and I just skipped over it by mistake, but I do really feel that Housatonic needs a gathering space. And, I know that's being worked on, the ADA access and all that, but I do think that that's important for Housatonic to have some kind of gathering center, whether it's the library or somewhere else. But
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
support, like I said, and I had that on my list too.
Okay. Larissa Yapel.
Hey guys,
Name and address, please.
Larissa Yapel, 15 Castle Hill Avenue. I just want to make a quick plug for Mark or Chris to ask Sean when he comes to you guys with an update on these other projects for an update on the trees. To Lee's point about the crosswalk safety, there's some branches that need to get pruned out of the view there. And I know Sean's been very busy, but if that can be part of the update, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks. We are aware of that, Larissa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Larissa. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing no one, we'll go to select board time. Garfield?
Nothing other than what I mentioned earlier, so nothing for me.
Thank you, Garfield. Eric?
All set. Thank you.
Ed? There you go. Lee?
Yeah.
Nothing for me. Any media time? At the height of tonight's meeting, we had 6 panelists and 11 attendees.
See, I think of one thing, and I don't know if it's appropriate for right now, but I know there's some discussion, and we should make it clear again about the sidewalks in Housatonic and in Great Barrington. There was some problems with the asphalt, folks being upset about the asphalt. Has that been made clear to the Housatonic people that are having an issue with that?
I think we have, but we can do that at a meeting. Tonight's not the night to do that without Sean being here.
Mhm.
So we can do that. We can do it at town manager's report.
Excellent.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
By unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.